Hey friends, welcome back to my channel and to a new video. This is creative exercise video number 14. This is a little series that I'm doing here in my YouTube channel where I am using a book called Daily Creative to grab some prompts, some creative prompts, and I'm translating that into my scrapbook layouts for the year. So the prompt for today comes from July 23rd, and by the way, this book is by Todd Henry, and it's a creative book, so it's not necessarily a scrapbooking book, but it is for any creatives, especially if you're in the creative business, how to be more prolific in that regard. And it's a daily prompt, so every day there's a new creative prompt to use or to be inspired by. So I'm going by July 23rd, and the title is When You're Stuck. This is what it said. No matter how skilled you are and no matter how well you've prepared, you're inevitably going to find yourself stuck on a tough problem without a clear path forward. Choose a project you're stuck on and ask these questions. So there's a bunch of questions here. I want to say it's at least 15 questions. And then you pick a question that would help you to, it says here, ask new questions to spark new insights. So the two questions, actually the one question that I wanted to answer as I'm working on this layout is, how would a third grader approach this problem? And I think it's a really good idea for us because, like I said, however prolific, however you feel like you're a master on a creative aspect, there's still going to be some times where you're feeling stuck, maybe because you're overthinking it, or maybe it's because it's the solution will be out of your comfort zone, or it's not something that you normally think of. And so that's what I was thinking here. Now, I wasn't necessarily stuck as far as creating the layout. I could have created the layout however I was inspired to do it. But what I was stuck on really was to combine the ideas that I have. Like, how do I put it together? So my initial thoughts with this layout, first of all, is the photos, right? So I always start with the photos, and I had 3 photos here of my son, my oldest son, and my husband. This was after my son's senior season of wrestling, and he was awarded as the MVP. So he got the MVP award, and come to find out, well, I knew this, but later on we would think it wasn't ironic, but it was just kind of interesting that both my husband and my son both got awarded MVP. Of course, my husband got his when he was in high school, and then now my son. And so once we were done with the banquet or the award ceremony, I had told them that they should take a picture together. And so my husband pulled out his Letterman jacket, and I'm very impressed. It still fits him. He's been very studious with making sure that he is working out. And so he wore his Letterman as well as my son, and we took a picture of them. And so my first hurdle, let's just say hurdle, was that what kind of colors do I want to emphasize? And so the colors that I had pulled were a lot of the cool colors, with the exception of the yellow. So cool because both my husband and my son's Letterman had greens and blues, so that's a given. But my son also had some yellows in his, and I felt like I needed to use that. So that was the first hurdle, was how do I combine all those colors? And so the answer that I found, again, having the lens of a third grader, was to just put them all together. One of the things that I am lucky to have is, because of my day job as an art teacher, I do have third graders. So I was specifically thinking about specific students in mind. I was like, what would so-and-so, what would Johnny or Sally do with this particular project? What would they do? And that kind of helped me to not overthink it. It also helped me to narrow down my choices, because one of the things, if you've ever worked with kids, is that very few, and I am not saying that all of them are, but very few of them really get stuck. Like a lot of them, their thought, most of them, well, the ones in my classroom, they're really like, I just want to get this done. I want to get this done. I want to be finished. But some do like take their sweet time, and I commend those kids for really spending a good amount of time in their creative pursuits. I think that's great. But for the most part, there's kids that they want to paint, or they want to finish their projects so that they can color, because that's kind of my early finisher project or activity for kids that finish early, is that they can get a coloring page and then they can color, which is also a creative pursuit. So I'm not barking on them for that, but it's just very interesting how when I have this mentality of a third grader, I notice that I don't overthink things. I just go through it, and if we want to change things up, we'll change it as we go. So that's one of the things that I've learned. Can I do this better? Absolutely, I could. Like, for example, I could have inked all of the edges of the strips, but as a third grader, again, thinking about some of the kids that I have in my classroom, they are not going to take that time to do that extra step. So that's what I was doing here. And did it help me to be unstuck? Absolutely. And it also helped me to manage my time, because then I'm, again, like I said, not overthinking it. I'm just going with the flow of things. Another thing that I decided, again, I wanted to incorporate that green, so I was going to use that as my background, but it's just gonna show a sliver of it in the background. And then I'm also going to use it as a mat for my photos. And I really like how this turned out. It's more cool colors, which I connect so much with masculine themes, the blues and the greens. So that worked out really well for me. The yellows, of course, is going to blend well with my photos because there's yellow in that photo. And then the design is still very much like this. The photos will be in the center, and then the strips of paper on the side. So this is a great thing if you wanted to use some of your scraps. I've actually used these sets of papers in, I think, 2 other layouts, and they are kind of nautical theme from Heidi Swapp. I just love the muted colors on it, and it's just very calming, like what you would expect from like beach themed or nautical themed. So I really, and the boldness of the blue actually works really well. It makes the blue in my son's Letterman jacket really stand out a lot as well. So again, I've told you about the photos, and I didn't do any journaling yet for this, so I'm going to do that as I work on this layout. I did pull out some 3x4, a few 3x4 cards, thinking that I will use 2 of them, one for the journaling and one for the title. And as you can see here, I'm auditioning them all here, trying to figure out which one works best. I really like this one with all of the little men or little people accents on the bottom. I think it fit really well. But at this point, I was also thinking I need something to put my journaling in. So I'm just trying to kind of audition it, and I think I'm really going to go with this one. Now, initially, you're going to see that this is like my initial design, but I'm actually going to change things up a little bit later, sorry. Now that, I don't know if you noticed, but the thicker sticker pack on the left side, it had a banner that says fantastic feats of strength, and the color of the background is that mustard yellow. So I am going to use that as my title. And again, thinking like a third grader, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to say, is that really work well? Do I really want that kind of font, like none of that. It's just going to be like, oh, that works. Great, we'll put it on. And I feel like it's very freeing to do something like this. Maybe not all the time, because you also want to stretch yourself as a creative and get out of your comfort zone, because if you're not taking the time to extend, I guess, your creativity, then you won't grow. So there's times for these kinds of things, especially when you've spent a lot of time and you're stuck. And there's also times when you kind of think about what you're going to do. So one of the things, like I said, I did not ink the edges of the strips. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of add just a little bit oomph on my layout is to do some pen stitching. Could I have done some hand stitching? Absolutely. But would a third grader do it? Probably not, right? So, well, I guess if there's an third grader that's very ambitious. But again, that was my prompt today. So I'm thinking like them. And I was just very freeing. I really do agree that it gives a little bit of freedom, and it makes us think like somebody like outside of ourselves, right? 'Cause sometimes we just get too much into our head, and I really like this exercise. So I'm going to and as you can see, I'm just doing 2 per corner. I like that I did, you know what would be really cool too next time is to do all 4 corners and just see what kind of like patchwork kind of quilt idea that we can get if we do that on the 4 corner, having the strips on all 4 corners, and you have that kind of like square shape or diamond. I can't remember what you will get if you do those 4 triangles on each one. I think you'll get a square, but it would just be interesting. So when I was doing the pen stitching and I was putting my pictures on the center, I like that it's central, that your eye would go straight into the center of the layout. But I just felt that white space was just missing something. Like it just seemed a little too plain. Could I have gotten some splatter medium? Absolutely, I could have gotten. But the circle die cuts was already on my table because I was using that for a different layout. And I was also already doing pen stitching, so I already had the brown pen, so might as well just do that. And I like how it's just peeking. Again, it leads the eye directly to the center. I like how that all goes. And the center does look very much like there's hard edges because it's very straightforward, but the angle of the strips of paper I think balance out everything, so I still like the look of that. And I did move that 3x4 paper on the bottom instead of it being on the right. And then I am going to add my horizontal photos and then pull out this wonderful title that's already pre-made for me, and I don't have to overthink it. Now you're probably wondering, well, where's the journaling going to go? So that's what I was thinking as well when I was finishing up this title treatment, was trying to figure out where my journaling will be stored. At first I was thinking, well, maybe I will use one of the strips of paper at an angle and just hand write my journaling there. But then I was thinking, oh, well, I won't have any room for, I'm not having any room, but there's just very limited room. And what if I have a lot of things to say? And then I was thinking, well, I could pre-print my journaling, but then that would be another kind of either rectangle or either blocky. And so at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to utilize that top circle that has the just a stencil of a circle there. That's where I am going to handwrite my journaling. And so I'm going to get a ruler and a pencil, and I'm going to make myself some lines just so that I will have some lines as I write. because I wanted to be straight, but I also wanted my journaling to be contained within that circle, just so that I can keep the design of this layout clean and not overly complicated. So again, I'm just using some pencil here, and I'm going to handwrite my journaling, and then I'm going to just finish off with maybe a few more stars here and there. Oh, and I think I will add the stickers that says fun day, and I will add that on the bottom. But here I am writing my journaling, and then I'm going to finish off everything once I'm all done with the journaling part. So thank you so much for watching. I will have some close-up shots at the end of this video. Again, if you like these videos, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye now.